Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Del challenges the status quo, questions everything, and empowers you to return to your core beliefs to make your life better. If you're ready to hear the truth and get your roadmap to the lifestyle you really want, the next hour will change your life. And now, your host, self-made millionaire, national award-winning investor of the year, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. My friends, somebody sent me an article the other day that was pretty good. Interestingly enough, I want to cover it. But before I want to cover it, I want to talk to you about what's important about the article, because the article itself, although it has some interesting stuff in it, is a perfect example of something that I've thought my entire life. And that is, what gets in the way of a great life is a good life. What gets in the way of a good life is an okay life. And what gets in the way of okay life is a terrible life, with the belief that it's the best I can do. And so, my friends, as I sit here, I've wondered if you've ever thought to yourself, have you ever wondered why? When you take a middle-class person and they look at all the stupid stuff that poor, broke people do, and they look at it and they go, it's so simple to not be broke and poor, uneducated and crazy, or any of these things. I mean, think about yourself. Do you ever not, whatever stature in life you have financially, don't you just look out there and wonder, you know, are these guys one can short of a six-pack? What is it they don't get when they're doing all this ridiculously crazy stuff? And you know what I'm talking about. I do radio shows. I've been doing them for, 10, 20 years. I don't know exactly how long. And I brought up this crazy stuff. Radio show after radio show after radio show. And the aha moments. I have people call me up, or people come in and meet me and they say, you were talking to me. I heard that like you were speaking directly to me. That's my problem, my problem, my problem, my problem. And you wonder to yourself, or you should wonder to yourself, why did their parents teach them those stupid things? Now, what's funny is, if you're a middle-class American, and you could be anywhere from lower middle class to upper middle class, you look down at the people below you and you think, why don't they get it? So lower, middle-class people look at poor people and go, man, why are you living on the street? Why do you live in that shabby, I can't even come up with the word, where a house is just such in derelict condition, just like it should be torn down instead of lived in. And you ask, why are you there? Why, if you're so broke and poor, do you have 5 or 6 kids? How did that help you out? Right? How do you not keep a job? How do you keep losing your job? How do you get up and front up your manager, your owner, and get in their face and talk crap to them? Why do you live this way? Why do you have a broken down car that won't even run, but you have $500 rims on each wheel and big giant wheels on that? The money should have been spent on a car that ran instead of wheels, right? And we, as middle class people, look at these people and go, I can see what's wrong. You're broke, you have all these financial problems, and yet you have a big screen TV and the most expensive cell phone you can buy, and $100, $200 tennis shoes, gold jewelry wrapped around your neck and in your ears and in your teeth. And you ask yourself, why do you do that when you could use that money to get ahead? When you look at people in the upper middle class to the lower middle class, they literally look at you and see the same thing. Go, why do you spend all this money on the way you live and don't have any investments to make you wealthier? I don't get it. What are you one can short of a six-pack? What is the problem? And then when you go from rich people to even upper middle class people, rich people are a little bit kinder. They go, I understand why you don't get what we do. I understand that. What I don't understand is Del's trying to teach it to you, and you won't listen. And that's your educated person that goes, hey, I realized as an educated person, I was taught a set of beliefs that didn't work. It didn't get me where I want to be. I'm financially secure, but I'm not rich, I'm not wealthy, and I'm not retired. Those people come in, they listen to what we say, and then they're rich, wealthy, and retired. This article is a perfect example of that. And the way I'm going to define it for you is I'm going to explain to you who this article was written by, where they come from, and what their genesis is. And then I'm going to go over the article with you and tell you about what's right and what's wrong and what's not and so on and so forth. But all the stuff about what's right and what's wrong and what's not in the article isn't even 1/10 as important as who wrote the article and what they believe about themselves and their own ideas. All right. So here are the players in the game. There's a guy writing an article called Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps Are Flawed. Get rid of debt much quicker than this. Now, the author to the article is a writer and mentor for an online real estate group whose basic theory from existence was that you don't need expensive multimillionaire mentors to teach you how to be a multimillionaire, that a bunch of us dumb people can all get together and share our dumb ideas together online as a blog, and all of these blog together wrong ideas will somehow add up to being a better idea. That's their entire theory. If a bunch of dumb people get together and share, then somehow all of us will become better off and not have to go find mentoring from people that are highly successful. That's the big flaw. And they put down mentoring left and right. Now, don't get me wrong. I will agree that a lot of mentoring is flat wrong. A lot of mentoring out there and mentors are really just bogus. I agree with a lot of what they say. Obviously, I don't on my program because my program's been here 29 years and we've retired thousands and thousands of people, made millionaires out of hundreds and hundreds of people. And even on this online blog, whenever anybody puts up something negative about us, 10 guys write something positive about us to cover it up because they go, look, I'm a member there. It's wonderful. Don't get me wrong. This is not a battle with an opponent, in the industry. That's not what this is about today. This is a battle between ideas. And I'm here to give you the best ideas because these guys can't. They can't because of who they are. They're failures. So this guy proceeds to write this article on this blog about why Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps just don't make sense. All right? I'm going to go into his reasoning behind that, okay, in just a minute. What I want to do is start with the last paragraph. Now remember, this is a writer and a mentor for this training program. They asked him to come on as a writer and a mentor, and they're putting out articles into the universe by this guy as if he's somebody you should be listening to. And I quote, "Here's where I am currently." Now this is years after being successful at his program. "Right now, since I live free, I save well above half of my income and live very comfortably. Yes, add in eating and drinks occasionally." So he tells them this story that while he was going through the program, turning his life around, he didn't go out to eat, he didn't do anything. He worked like a dog, slaved and saved all of his money, okay? He says he's living free because he currently lives in a house that he lives in the basement of. He bought a house, rented out a 2-bedroom townhouse, rented out the 2 bedrooms, and lives in the basement. And the people living in the 2 bedrooms don't pay him any positive cash flow. They simply pay his mortgage payment for him. In his brain, he has accomplished the most masterful thing in the whole world. But what he's accomplished is to be a basement dweller. A basement dweller, guys. Do you want to live in a basement? Do you want to live thinking that because you can afford to go out and have a few drinks at night, you've actually made it? I digress. He goes on. "Those savings are currently being invested in a Roth IRA and a savings account." He has absolutely, here he is telling you that he made all of his money in real estate, which was one transaction, by the way, one house that he lives in. He didn't even buy any investment property, bought one house that he lives in the basement, right? And where is he putting his money? In a Roth IRA and a savings account, which if you come to my seminar, I will show you why the Roth IRA is just a completely stupid thing to do. Absolutely dumbest thing you've ever seen in your whole life. I can prove it to you 10 times over. But that's not today's radio show. But this guy doesn't get it. When I come back, I'm going to show you the rest of the story. Be right back with the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
You're listening to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Del will be right back with more life-changing principles in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Now here's some more unconventional wisdom to set you free from the man on a mission to retire America, one person at a time, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to Del Walmsley Radio Show. From the first segment, we were talking about the fact that I'm doing an analysis of an article written by a guy that works for a blogging company, real estate blogging company, that says that people that know nothing about real estate should be able to teach other people how to do real estate. That way they don't have to go find people that really know how to do real estate and use them to teach them how to do real estate and become millionaires. And this guy is complaining. I mean, this is a full-blown Del rant on Dave Ramsey. And you know that I've ranted on Dave Ramsey many times, but this guy is interesting because his rant on Dave Ramsey is that his ideas are so much better than Dave Ramsey, he's broke. But he got broke sooner than Dave Ramsey's people do. In other words, he got back to zero faster than Dave Ramsey's people. Let me read this to you. Here's where I am currently right now since I've lived for free, which means he lives in a basement underneath of a house that two other guys rent. We're well above half of my income is saving about half my income. Okay, those savings are currently being invested in a Roth IRA, which is stupid, and a savings account, which is okay, designated for buying my second house in around 12 more months, and paying down my student loan using the debt avalanche method rather than the debt snowball. At this moment, my net worth, and by the way, he's going to buy a house after 12 months, which is ridiculous. I'll get into that in a moment. At this moment, my net worth is roughly zero. Let me read that to you again in case you didn't listen to that. At this moment, after all my super success using my super methods other than Dave Ramsey methods, my net worth is roughly zero. But guess what? I have about $25,000 plus in assets that are working hard to earn me money while I sleep. And they'll continue to do so for years and years to come. So what he's considering is because he owns a piece of real estate, he doesn't have any net worth. But because he owns some real estate now, and he's living for free in the basement, that somehow that's $25,000 worth of investments. It must be what he put down to buy the house, okay? If I had followed Dave Ramsey's baby steps, not only would I still have a net worth of less or of negative thousands and thousands of dollars. So if he followed Dave Ramsey, he wouldn't have gotten to zero quicker. But when I finally dug myself out of the hole, I'd have zero assets, which is exactly the point I've been making for years. You go spend 10 years of your life following Dave Ramsey and end up broke. You're back to zero. This guy said he did it in only 2 years, and now he's broke, back to zero. Now I'm going to get into the details of this, and when you see the details, I'm going to blow your mind before the rest of the show is over, because these guys have no idea what they're doing, and for that they are producing a situation where they are at best never going to be better than lower middle class. They have no idea what they're doing, yet they're writing blogs and training programs. Can you imagine that? It just blows my mind. It drives me crazy. And these guys are writing articles that you shouldn't come to multi-millionaires to get help. Just unbelievable. It goes on, it says, there are a number of ways to go about getting out of debt besides Dave Ramsey's method. And Connor Anderson's 7 steps, that must be his name, Connor Anderson. But the key is to start investing in assets as soon as possible and continue to do so. My journey has involved a lot of hard work and sacrifice. There we go. Hard work and sacrifice. But I promise you, it's repeatable and significantly more optimized path out of debt and into financial sound position in life than Dave Ramsey. So there it is. I've told you for years that the result of the Dave Ramsey program is I'm broke. Now, I always ask you to see this picture in your mind. There's a big crevasse, a deep ditch, a stick figure at the bottom screaming, help me. Up on the edge of the crevasse is Dave Ramsey's stick figure with the name Dave over it saying, hey, come on up, come on up. And then a big giant mountain next to Dave with a stick figure at the top with the name Del over it saying, Dave, when you're done with them, send them to me. I'll help them get rich. This guy is saying Dave's method for getting from in debt to broke is too slow. And he points out some very facts that I've been pointing out for a long time. So some of his facts are not that bad as far as points of reference. So I asked myself, and I think you should ask yourself, why is it this guy, what idea does he hold on to that still holds him down to be lower middle class individual? Right? And I'm going to try to go over some of those ideas today. Try to help you out. All right? So he goes on, he starts out by telling people about who Dave Ramsey is. And I don't know if you need to read all this stuff, but here's Dave Ramsey's baby steps. Step 1, save $1,000 for your emergency fund. Nothing wrong with that. Step 2, pay off all debts except your house using Debt Snowball. Absolutely dumbest thing you could do. Step 3, well, it's not the dumbest thing you could do, but it's not the most effective thing you could do. Step 3, save 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in full fund emergency fund. Okay idea, but not the most effective thing you could do. Step 4, invest 15% of your household income in retirement. Not a bad idea. Not as large amount as I would want to invest, but that's okay. Step 5, save for your children's college fund. Absolutely dumb as a rock. Take that money and go get rich, become a millionaire and send your kids to college off of the millions you've already made. Pay off your home early. Dumb as a rock. Absolutely stupid. Go ahead and make millions and millions and millions of dollars and not worry about paying off your home. And someday sell that stupid home, get out from underneath that mortgage, go buy yourself a mansion in the most beautiful place in the entire world. But you can't, because if you used all your money to pay off your home, like Dave says, then you won't have the money to invest and you'll never become a multi-millionaire. And last, build wealth and give it away. Great ideas. Not a problem with that. Now, he said these steps help thousands of people get out of debt and reach sound. But if you're someone with little or no knowledge of personal finance, someone who's only interested in getting out of debt and retiring by 60, go ahead and follow Dave Ramsey's baby steps and you'll get there. No, you won't get there. Those baby steps are not going to retire you by 60. There's nothing in that plan that actually retires you. However, if you're interested in getting out of debt and then building a sizable net worth through real estate, index funds, stocks, bonds, Smoothie King franchises, or a combination of all these things, then someone interested in reaching financial freedom at early age, I would suggest you follow more. So what is the biggest flaw of Dave Ramsey's rules? Here it comes. Not investing your money and making it work for you as soon as possible is a huge mistake. Now, I don't have one darn argument with that statement at all. It's a wonderful, beautiful statement if you keep it just there. Everything else he says to do is suspect. Why? Because if he uses a statement that I would exactly agree with as his premise, that's his big premise, then why is he poor? Why is it 2.5 years after I started investing my way, I quit my job, retired, and was a millionaire? Why? What is the difference between his first 2 years of investing and my first 2 years of investing? Right? What is the difference? I had a crappy little job working in a health club. He's got some crappy little job doing something else. I don't know what he does. It doesn't really matter. Right? What matters, though, is that even though the core premise of both of our ideals are the same, the end result is massively different. 2.5 years after I started investing in real estate at 34 years of age, I retired, never went back to work for corporate America again, and got richer every year for the rest of my life. What did he have? He lived in the basement of a townhouse with 2 tenants paying the rent. Wow, that's sad. We'll be right back with the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
You're listening to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Del will be right back with more life-changing principles in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Now here's some more unconventional wisdom to set you free from the man on a mission to retire America, one person at a time, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to Del Walmsley Radio Show. Today we're going over an article written by someone that works for a blog that's a real estate training blog that says you don't need intelligent, super successful people to teach you how to do this stuff. You just find a bunch of people that are low-end people. You take a whole bunch of people that don't know what they're doing, and let them all get together. And because they're sharing their ideas, that somehow is going to turn into an osmosis of you becoming successful. So this guy is disputing Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps and countering with his own 7 baby steps. And yet my point to you is at the end of this 2-year period of time, he ends up living in a basement of a townhouse that he bought and renting out the 2 rooms above to end up living with no pay. And he said in his article, his net worth at this moment is 0. So I want to go down these steps and compare his ideas to Dave Ramsey's. Number 1, save $1,000 for an emergency fund. Easy enough. I made 90% of my own meals and said no to going out to bars. And at this point, if my car's brakes go out, I have something to fix it with. Okay, I get it. You got to start somewhere, right? You're driving an older car. You need rainy day fund. I have no argument with that. My argument is this. Guy paid $50,000 to $80,000 in college fund. I think 80 grand. And he gets out and he has a job that's saving $1,000. He's a single guy living in the basement of a townhouse who has no bills because the tenants pay for the bills. What do you do that you live in the basement of a townhouse with no bills and have a hard time saving $1,000 that you've got to go on some kind of starvation diet and not have any fun in life? That tells me that $80,000 spent on that college was a really bad choice for this guy. Number 2, pay off high interest rate debt only. He talks about, luckily, the $4,000 in credit card debt. Now, remember, he says he has 80 grand in debt, 4,000 of his credit card debt. So, here it is. He really made a mistake with that college debt. Credit card debt was at 0% introductory rate at 18 months. I still treated it like high interest rate debt and paid off ASAP. I did this because as soon as the 18-month period ended, it would carry to a 20% or higher interest, right? So let me tell you what I did. I bought 3 houses, and unlike him, I didn't live in any of them. I put $2,000 down, and I put the $2,000 on each of 4 credit cards. Again, with no interest or penalties for anywhere from 6 to 18 months on all of them. What he didn't understand was that I had a total, by the time I was done, of 50 credit cards. But along that line, I had 8 or 9 of them by then. And when that introductory rate popped off, I had another credit card right there ready to go ahead and transfer it to another card that paid 0 interest and payments for another 6 to 18 months. Now, because I was making $500 a month positive cash flow and not living for free in a basement, 500 times 4 houses, which I bought all within 60 days, bought 1, then next month I bought 3 more, so I had $800 a month positive cash flow coming in. I was able to pay those credit cards off very, very quickly because I had lots of cash flow coming in, none of which he had to deal with. Then he said he took whatever proceeds he could now keep because he wasn't paying the debt and started putting it in 401k and IRA. I instead took 27 credit cards. I had 50 at the end. Took 27 credit cards and bought an apartment complex $500,000 less than what it was worth from a distressed seller by assuming his mortgage and putting $327,000 down on 27 credit cards. Yes, let me repeat that to you. I put down $327,000 on 27 credit cards. Now, when I went to the bank to pull the money out, the banks flipped. And the president of the bank came to me and said, "What are you doing?" I showed him what I was doing. I have 27 credit cards with no interest, no payments. Well, actually, there were payments on some of them, but they were low interest rates, and there was some with no payments, and there was some with no interest for anywhere from 6 to 18 months. And I showed him, I said, "Look, I've got a spreadsheet here. Every one of these payments are coming out or less. The total amount I'm paying is less than 4% on this total debt. And for it, I'm buying an apartment complex that makes me $10,000 a month positive cash flow, which means that the credit cards were totally covered plus positive cash flow of about $5,000 a month or more. In addition to that, I had other credit cards set up and waiting. That is, when these popped off their interest only in none position, I was able to move them onto there. I did this each month. I'd come back and show this banker, which, by the way, they sold that bank. It was a private bank. They sold it to Wells Fargo, and now I'm one of Wells Fargo's best customers. They just do anything for me because they know what I've done and what I have. This guy has nothing. So I'm not bragging to you. I'm telling you, He's missing something, and I'm trying to show you what it is. It's how to make money. He, because he's a blogger in a company that believes that you shouldn't go to somebody who knows how to make money to learn how to make money, thinks he knows it all and can do it all. He's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. He lives in a basement. Do you want to live in the basement of your rent house? Not even own the upstairs part where the really quality living is at? Come on, people. So I took the apartment complex. I raised the rents $100 a door. I also changed the management, took out the management team, took my management team from across the street and put them in there, saved on payroll. All in all, made the thing go up in value $1 million within a year. Had all this equity there to be able to turn around and pay those credit cards off. Went right down the street and bought that apartment complex. Took it, refinanced the money out, paid off these credit cards and this one. But I didn't buy the second one on credit cards because I'd made so much money on houses by that time. I started selling my houses off, and I took the equity out of my houses to buy the next apartment. Now I have 3 apartment complexes that ended up making me between $10,000 and $15,000 a month each. I'm making $45,000 a month. He is living in a basement of a townhouse. Not even close. Now, he's saying he paid off all this high-interest debt, and then he comes back and says on his next step, he started paying down his college debt. Whatever your college debt is at, 4% interest, 3% interest, it's always ridiculously low. Why would you not leave that debt in place and take that $70,000 or $80,000 worth of debt, the money, because you're going to have to come up with the money to pay that debt off. Why not pay the interest on it instead? Take the rest of the cash and go buy more rental houses. Buy more rental houses, which makes you more and more and more and more cash flow, not giving you more and more basements to live in. Take that money, pay that debt off with that money. Or, even smarter, just keep paying the low interest rate debt and buy more and more and more and more. And when you get rich and you buy your first apartment and make $1 million in a year, pay that credit off. Or even if you flip one house and make $80,000 or $100,000, maybe that's when you pay that off. But you don't pay off all your debt. Pay off your cars and your credit cards and your houses and your homes and all that stupid stuff. And live on next to nothing and live in a basement of a townhouse. So that someday, 2 years later, you can be broke. Step number 5, pay off low interest rate debt. That's his college funds. Step number 7, save for your children's college fund. This is a single dude living underneath a townhouse in a basement. Where in his right mind does he think that there's any step qualified towards saving towards your kids' college? And by the way, if it was so important to do that, why does he have college debt? Why didn't his parents pay for his college? Or why didn't he go to a college that he could afford and work his way through college? 2 more stupid. Hey, I came out of college. I got no college debt. I went to college in a college that was right there in my town. I lived at home. Later, I got a job, or I had a job, so I could afford to live in an apartment on campus. But I didn't rack up any debt to go to college. There's books and tuition. And you need to eat, sleep, just like you did when you were living with mom and dad. So live with mom and dad, eat and sleep, pay for some tuition and some books, and don't go into debt. But what's even more important is, don't think that a stupid idea that your parents came up with for you, which didn't work for you, by the way, I know, because your college degree didn't get you a job you can't even save $5,000 a month with, right? You're saying 50% of what I'm saving $1,000. Are you making $2,000 a month? Or are you just lying to us in this article? How much are you saying? You're saying you're saving 50% of what you earn, yet you're saying it's taking you a year, 12 months. To save up enough money to buy a rent house. When I come back for break, I'm going to blow you away. Guys, I'm going to tell you something you won't even be able to believe. It's so strong, so impossible for you to believe. But when I share it with you, even the story about the $327,000 on credit cards is going to seem shamefully small compared to what I'm going to share with you when we come back from this break. So you must come back, because I'm going to show you how to buy real estate nothing down. We'll take a short break. Be right back with the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
listening to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Del will be right back with more life-changing principles in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Now here's some more unconventional wisdom to set you free from the man on a mission to retire America, one person at a time, Del Walmsley.
All right, folks, we're coming back to the last segment here today, and I've got to sort of summarize this all for everybody and pull it together, and then I'm going to give you a little punch in the gut that's going to hurt you like you've never been hurt before in your life. And that is, this guy went through all this hard work and pain and struggle and sacrifice. I quote, that's what he said, to get to a position in his life that he lives in the basement of a townhouse, which his two upper tenants above him, which is really a hassle if you think about living with three families in a house and you live in a basement. That's just might as well kill me right there. And in that situation then, he's saving what he's considering to be half of his total income. And all he has for that is to have a net worth of zero. Now, I looked up the rest of his numbers here and give you a round estimate. He said he's $80,000 in debt. The way it works out is it's $60,000 on car loans. I'm sorry, $60,000 on student loans, $20,000 on a car loan, and $4,000 on credit card debt. So he figured out how to pay off, I guess, if he's worth zero now, if he's broke even in 2.5 years, of which he says Dave Ramsey's way would have taken him 10 or 20 years because it's a slower method than going out and buying real estate with some part of the money. He got rid of this $84,000 worth of debt in 2.5 years or so. 2.5 years later, after I did what I did, I retired. So here's one of the differences. I don't know what he's doing, but he says he's charging. He paid $260,000 for a townhouse. First of all, I wouldn't buy a townhouse. He bought a townhouse for $260,000, $280,000, something like that. So he put down, he doesn't know how to invest in it. He said he put 3 or 4% down. So let's say 4% plus some closing costs. Let's say he's all in for 10%. So he put $4,000 in rehab also. So he's $26,000 down payment and rehab. He's in there for around $25,000 or $30,000. Let me tell you what I would have done with $25,000 or $30,000 instead of living in a kind. I would have done this last weekend. And if there's anybody out there in the radio, I know we're coming to the last segment, so it's probably impossible for you to get to a phone. But this last weekend, I did a 2-day seminar live in front of the audience. We bought a home with a $43,000 capital gain. Built-in capital gain of $43,000, and it had like $400 a month positive cash flow, and we bought it for $1 down. Now think about what I just said. If you got $25,000, $30,000, this guy put into one townhouse that he makes zero positive cash flow on, zero, right? And I purchased for the people live in the auditorium. In fact, it wasn't me. It was my top sales manager. Did it live. He did it right off MLS. Bought a house. After we bought it and rehabbed it, we still had $43,000 equity in the house. They made $400 a month positive cash flow, and we did it with really zero down. We just put the $1 in there so that we had a numerator to show the profitability angle of it. What is the profit on $1 invested, which is it was millions of percentage points high. I was off the month before that. I don't know what they did, but the month before that I was there. We did the very same thing, and the month before that we did the very same thing. And I've been teaching this stuff for 29 years. I showed you how I bought an apartment complex, a $1.5 million apartment complex for $1 million by putting $327,000 down on credit cards and assuming a $725,000 loan. And this went on to make me millions and millions of dollars with absolutely zero out of my pocket. I'm not telling you that this is the way to do real estate. Don't get me wrong. What I'm telling you is this guy has no idea how to be successful. And the point I've been making to you this whole show is, what is the difference between the guy who got the basic premise right? Let me find that basic premise. Here it is. The basic premise of why Dave Ramsey's program is not as effective is because he's not investing your money and making it work for you as soon as you possibly can. That is a mistake. His basic premise is right, folks. But he's going to be a dirt-clod middle-class person for the rest of his life because he missed all the rest of the ideas. The idea to put his savings in a IRA, the idea to invest in franchises and REITs, and I had all this list of other crappy investments that none of which you should do. He just doesn't get the big picture, the whole picture. Yet, he makes a resounding argument against Dave Ramsey. So what can I say about that? Middle-class people, you can go pound poor people in the head with your ideas, and they will really be a lot smarter. Middle-class people, you can pound lower middle-class people with your ideas, and they're better. Upper middle class, you can pound all middle class and poor people with your ideas, and they're better. Rich people can pound all people below them with their ideas because they're better. Unless it's inherited wealth and you don't really deserve to have it. And many times inherited wealth gets lost, almost like winning the lottery. Most people who win the lottery are broke within no time at all. So what I'm saying to you guys, if you're wondering why you're out there working hard and doing what you think is smart, you've got a problem. And the problem is you've got the wrong set of ideas. And the wrong set of ideas are going to give you the wrong results. The other point I'd like to make to you is, if you ever run into a blog, an online program that says, all of these real estate gurus are just full of crap, they don't know what they're doing, then those people don't know what we do. They have no idea the millions and millions and millions of dollars our members are making, and that their members are not. If their teachers are as lowly as this guy, then I don't see how their students can be doing much better. My friends, the answers are out there. You just need to seek them out. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I've been here for 29 years, yelling at you as loud as I can without losing my voice. I just pray that someday you'll listen. Have a wonderful day, and remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
Information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley radio show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers, and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this station, its affiliates, its management, or advertisers. The Del Walmsley show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.